Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. And this afternoon, we are going to look at another drama in politics, another scandal, another gossip. And I know you love your gossips because that is how what titivates your minds and keep you going. And let's be fair now, we understand that had it not been for these dramas, what life would Jamaicans have to live, right? Really, let's be clear on this. What lives would Jamaica be living had it not been for the scandals, for the gossips, right? And for all these political intrigues that we're seeing in Jamaica. But I just want to say here, let me be serious now, that the same saga that we saw with Lawrence Rowe and Steve McGregor is now playing out in the JLP party between Delroy Williams, that is the now outgoing, what you call it now, mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew, and he is up against another contender to replace Mike Henry. Now remember, Mike Henry should be what, in his 90s now? Could be 90 now, and he has retired, or he's just about, he has retired, but retired recently, so he has to be replaced, I think, in Clarendon Central, I think that is what the constituency is called. But this morning, the Gleaner is reporting here the title, Williams walks, Kingston Deputy Mayor quits Senate, bringing vacancies to 3 as he eyes lower house seat, right? So we see here where Delroy Williams has decided to retire from the Senate. And it says here, former mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, has resigned from the Jamaican Senate effective immediately, hours before the prorogation of Parliament today. The decision has put vacancies on the government side in the upper house to 3, following last year's resignation of Matthew Samudo, the current member of Parliament for St. Ann Northeastern, and former business executive Don Webby. The Gleaner has learned that the resignation may be aimed at giving Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness room to repopulate the Senate ahead of tomorrow's ceremonial opening of Parliament. This is what he's saying after 9 fulfilling years in this role. This is Delroy Williams speaking. These are his words. I am humbled to have contributed to the vision of transforming Jamaica and supporting your legislative agenda for our nation, said Williams in the letter dated February 11th, 2025, and addressed to Holness. Serving in the upper house has been an incredible honor, and I am grateful for the opportunities I've had to contribute to our community and country. I am proud of the progress we have made together and the positive impact we have achieved for our Jamaica. The councillor for the, Severite Gardens Division in the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation added. So he's very pleased and he is delighted to have served Jamaicans, and he thinks that he has served them well. Now, he says, as I step away from my responsibilities as senator, I still believe and remain committed to our shared vision for the future of Jamaica and look forward to supporting our government in this important endeavor, said Williams, the current deputy mayor of Kingston. So he is pleased at his performance as he leaves. So one would have thought that he's leaving and everything is okay, until we see that there is some conflict here now. He is going to, enmesh himself into another drama in Clarendon. So we have here that, we understand that the Mike Henry has now retired. So this was reported coming to a meeting of JLP's Clarendon Central executive last evening. The constituency executive was told that they wouldn't know who is the candidate by Thursday. So yesterday's meeting followed another reportedly held between Holness and Mayor of Maypen, Joel Williams. So Joel Williams is the current Maypen, or the current mayor of Maypen. That's Clarendon. And I think he is the one that Mike Henry has anointed to be the next MP, member of parliament for that area. The latter, Williams, was handpicked by Henry, who has been head of the constituency since 1980. So Henry has anointed Joel Williams, the present mayor of Maypen, right? And what has happened is that it seems to me that there is some conflict between, what the constituents desire in terms of who they want to represent them versus the establishment. And we're seeing that throughout Western democracies in recent times. We saw it in the United States and other countries where people are just being foisted upon. Politicians are just, the establishment is foisting their choice upon people. They're not suggesting here, they're not hiding that really and truly there's no democracy. They're telling you that they are selecting who they want for you to elect. So having selected the candidates, then you elect them because, it is what they want, either of the two. Now, there has since been a divide in the constituency. The Gleaner is reporting this with supporters for the Maypen mayor crying foul over the former mayor's application for the seat. So we're seeing where the citizens are now saying, no, 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 this is foul play. We want Joel Williams. Why are you sending us Delroy Williams all the way from Kingston? When we know Joel Williams and we want him, we want Joel Williams, right? We want Joel Williams. That is what is happening in this constituency of, I think it is Clarendon, Central Clarendon. Last week, a delegate who the Gleaner will not identify in an emailed letter registered her opposition to any move to replace Henry's pick. And she says here, the Central Clarendon sorry about that. There was some sort of technical difficulty here. So let's go back to where we were reading. So we are seeing here that Mr. Delroy Williams is said to replace Mike Henry, but the citizens, the constituents here in Central Clarendon want Joel Williams. So Mr. Henry has endorsed Mayor Joel Williams as his successor, a humble, respectful, loyal, and decent leader whose approach to politics resonates deeply with the residents of Central Clarendon. He has been with us through thick and thin. Listen to what they're saying now. However, we are alarmed by the attempt to parachute Mr. Delroy Williams, a former mayor of Kingston and sitting councillor in Prime Minister Andrew Holness's constituency in the city of Kingston, into our Clarendon constituency. So it's the same sort of saga that we saw between Rowe, right? Lawrence Rowe, not Lowe, but Lawrence Rowe and Steve McGregor. This is the same sort of, combat in which we are seeing at play here that what the citizens desire, what they want, or who they want to represent them is not what the establishment desires, and that is the conundrum here, the conflict. This is the same man who has held responsible or who was held responsible for the loss of Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, a big defeat for labor rights. So they're saying here that this man is not a popular guy, just like they were saying Lawrence Rowe is the preferred candidate. He is from the constituency, and he is the man that the people want for the PNP, not Steve McGregor. But the establishment wants Steve McGregor, and they have money and they have influence, and the people don't. Right? So this is what we're seeing being played out in both political parties, whether it's the PNP or the JLP. Both parties are not embracing, to an extent, the desire or the desires of their constituents. Right? That is what you have to understand. So what is this democracy of which we are speaking? I don't know. You have to explain that to me. It is disheartening to witness the growing trend of the party leadership inserting individuals with little popularity and weak ties into constituencies. Central Clarendon deserves a leader who understands our community's needs and has earned the trust of its people over time, the JLP delegate noted. So here we're seeing another huge brouhaha, right, in both political parties. right? Because at the end of the day, the constituents don't matter. And the people are making a good point here that this is they're playing, a huge risk here. That's what they're doing. The cards that they're playing here in the JLP are not being played well, because when you look at it, they're saying Delroy Chuck, not Delroy Chuck, but Delroy Williams. Please do not call my name Delroy Chuck. I'm not trying to put you into any, what do you call it, waters here. It's Delroy Williams, right? Delroy Williams is not a popular candidate. In fact, as they're suggesting that he caused a severe loss to the JLP in a recently held election. She said the imposition of Williams in the seat is creating huge divisions. That's Delroy Williams. Both of them are Williams. You have Delroy Williams, and Delroy Williams is the one coming from Kingston, and you have Joel Williams is the one who is seemed to be a resident of that constituency, deepening bitterness and increasing disillusionment among Labourites. The woman said such heavy-handedness is dictatorial and will backfire, alienating voters and weakening the party's grassroots support across Clarendon. So the grassroots support is not really important to the GLP, nor to the PNP. Some already know some already know, but it bears repeating. This is what somebody's saying from the constituency. Some already know, but it bears repeating, somebody from the committee saying. The JLP is weak in Clarendon, and much of that is due to Labourites being disillusioned by poor representation and immature leadership. And this is nothing that is new, because we know that the little quiet town, the one quiet town of Clarendon, or parish, whatever you want to call it, was once a quiet, sleeping town. Maypen, nothing there major was happening. And well, I should say that for quite some time, Maypen has been a hotspot for crime and violence, I must say. But, for whatever it wasn't as bad as it is now, with all the infestation of gangs into Clarendon. Clarendon is known to be now a gang-infested parish. So many JLP supporters who follow politics daily are beginning to believe that the party is preparing for a massive loss at the next general election, and that the leadership is simply inserting candidates that will support them in opposition. And this is what is happening. Oh, let me repeat that. I think when I read this article, this statement sort of eclipsed me. I did not pay attention to what she was saying here. Let me repeat. Many JLP supporters who follow politics daily are beginning to believe that the party is preparing for a massive loss at the next general election, and that the leadership is simply inserting candidates that will support them in opposition. So they are preparing to be in opposition, as it were. This is sheer madness, as no one is sure how things will play out. As many cases, it is the very same loyalists who will turn against their own and bring them down, the delegates said. Right? So they are preparing just like the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party in the United States won what should I say now? An election that it was, unless they had rigged it, which I thought they would have, it was very evident that they could not win that election. Everything in the Democratic Party had indicated that they could not win that election because of how they had run the show and the undemocratic process from the start to the finish line. They were just not listening to the delegates. Right? They were just contemptible of what the grassroots people had to say. And the same thing is happening here in the JLP party in Jamaica, where we're seeing that they are contemptible of the grassroots people and the members of the constituency. She urged the JLP leadership to take sleep, mark death, and to respect the will of the delegates and constituents, allowing them to choose their caretaker and possibly the next MP. Anything less would betray the democratic values that should guide our party and nation. Well, unfortunately, I don't think that there is any democratic process that is guiding our nation. The only democratic process that I see, the only democratic process that I see in Jamaica is that people are able to vote. And some of them, you have also voter suppression, where people will pay them or they will threaten their lives if they vote for the other party that they don't want them to vote for. Right? So what freedom is there? Where is this democratic process that we like to brag about, and that Jamaica is a robust democracy? Right? When what we're seeing coming to light, people have known, people like myself who have been studying the politics for years, we understand that this is what happens. But now that we have, all the diffusion of social media, and that is what, that's one of the reasons why you find that Andrew Holness and a lot of our government, they are against social media because they think that it is, the harbinger. It is where this information is spread, but they're also spreading this information from their part, and they're lying to us, they're deceiving us, and they're gaslighting the people, right? So the people are able to look at digestible food from social media, and they select what they want to hear and what they want to believe in. Because the truth nowadays is very hard to get. And Chalmers Johnson, who wrote The Sorrows of U.S. Empire, right? He mentioned that even in the United States, that you think is a great democracy and is the standard of democracy for any country in the world, because that's what you've been told in schools, and you believe that, right? But he says that U.S. citizens will find it very difficult to find truthful information because everything is hidden by the national security state. Almost everything is hidden. So what you're reading in the New York Times, in the Financial Times, in the Washington Post, in the LA Times, in Politico, in Washington Times, and all of these right-wing or left-wing media sources or outlets is just a narrative or are just narratives or are versions of the truth, because it is your truth. That's what they're telling us nowadays. Truth is no longer absolute, according to what we're being told. But what they're trying to do now is to brainwash us that whatever the government tells us is truth, right? And the citizens should be comfortable knowing that their government is the source of truth that we should believe in. And people believe it. People believe it. Now, here we have our year started out on a bang, as I told you, on a bang. And we heard about the Lawrence Rowe and Steve McGregor saga in the PNP. Now we are learning of this conflict here in the JLP between Joel Williams and Delroy Williams, right? Joel Williams seems to be the legitimate candidate and representative for that constituency. But because the establishment, the powers that be, want Delroy Williams to win, they want to supplant him. That's Joel Williams with Delroy Williams, when Joel Williams is the candidate that the constituents and the delegates desire to win. But could it be true, as this delegate is suggesting? I'm not sure if she's a delegate, but this reporter, whomever she is, she's suggesting that what is on the ground, because what you see in the Gleaner and the Observer, they're just, narratives of the elites, right? These are just narratives of the elites, whether it be the academic elites, the social, well, the economic elites, the political elites. Those ideas represent them, and you have to also read with that understanding. However, the ground, what is on the ground, is another narrative. And she's here suggesting that the narrative on the ground, which should be believed because the people are the ones who are feeling the consequences of the reckless policies of our politicians. I've been saying that. How often should I declare that to you? Or people are the ones who have to bear the consequences of the reckless policies that our politicians have imposed and implemented over the years, including under the Andrew Holness-led administration. So when he's telling you about this great economy, and our dollar is stable and everything is okay, and these are the hallmarks of democracy when you have a stable economy and what do you call it now? But I must, before I go, I should read this to you. And I hope that I will not, I will not take up your time. So he's telling us, but this is the article that was written today in the Daily Gleaner. Let me see if I could pull up. It's a letter to the editor. And I had it, and I should have downloaded it before I came. I did download it. I did save it to my email, and I just did not. But the Prime Minister is telling us that we are in a great economy and that we're thriving. As a country, Jamaica is thriving under the Andrew Holness-led government, right? But he's not telling you that the people on the ground do not necessarily understand the language in which he was speaking. Because the people are going to tell you, no hablo ruso, no hablo español, right? The people are going to say, I don't speak Russian, I don't speak Spanish. That's what he was speaking to them. They don't understand the language that he was speaking because Andrew Holness was speaking the language of the elites and his slave masters, right? He represents his slave masters, the economic slave masters. But the title of the letter that was written to the editor this morning was, why should we vote for you? And this was a very good letter that the person did not, is anonymous, right? The person did not mention his name. And he says, why should we vote for you? Well, I should say he or she because we don't know the name. Open letter to all political candidates campaigning for the Jamaica general election. As you embark on your campaign journey in the lead up to Jamaica general election, we, the people, urge you to use this opportunity. Campaigning should not merely be about political fanfare, driving motorcades and handouts, but about addressing the real concerns of our communities, aligning them with the national vision and outlining a clear and actionable plan that resonates with the aspirations of the people. But we're not seeing that. One, he's addressing the issues affecting the constituency, which they don't often do. They only tell you about what they hear from the IMF, and which often are not the realities of the people, of the constituencies. Each constituency in Jamaica faces unique challenges, from inadequate infrastructure and unemployment to crime. Unemployment, we hear from Andrew Holness that, from Dr. Andrew Holness, that employment, we are about on the verge of full employment. That is what the astute, right, illustrious Dr. Andrew Holness intimated the other day. So education and healthcare, all of these things are great according to Andrew Holness, but this guy's saying it's not true. As a candidate, we implore you to articulate a deep understanding of these issues and present tangible solutions that not only address our local concerns, but also integrate them into the broader national development agenda, right? Or plan he used here, Vision 230 Jamaica. What are the pressing issues in our constituency? How do these issues align with the national agenda for growth and development? What specific policies or initiatives will you implement at the constituency level to contribute to national progress? These are very important questions that the writer here is posing, right? Two, communicating your action plan to electorate. You have to communicate. You must communicate clearly, and succinctly to the people, to the constituents. Voters deserve transparency, and I have been using this word ad nauseum, and continuous engagement. Beyond manifestos and rallies, we need structured and accessible communication outlining your plans, progress, and accountability measures. We urge you to commit to the following: hosting regular town hall meetings to engage with constituents, and also ensuring that you find a way to meet with residents of our many gated communities. Utilizing traditional and digital media to ensure inclusivity in communication. And we often use this word diversity and equity and inclusivity, but oftentimes these are just words. They're empty words. Publishing clear action plans with realistic timelines and performance indicators, right? Encouraging civic participation and feedback loops to keep the community engaged. And they can do this through the digital media, through what you call it, social media and all of that stuff. They can do that. How do you plan to ensure that every citizen, from the youth to the elderly, has access to the information they need to make informed electoral choices? They don't. Right? Now, this is a critical question, and one which I deal here because I should be called the geopolitical channel of the Caribbean of Jamaica, because Jamaicans don't talk about geopolitics. They think that Jamaica is functioning within its own orbit and that it is separate from what is happening on the global, in the global realm. That is how the Dion Jackson Millers and the what you call him now there, the Cliff Hughes. That's how they communicate. They behave as if we are not in a global system, functioning in a globalized economy. They don't speak like that because they do not have the aptitude or they do not have the integrity to explain to you what really is happening. But this intelligent writer to the editor of the Gleaner this morning mentioned this very critical point, which I have been raising, I think, in every video that I've made since I've started my YouTube channel. Will the current USA and other international policies affect your 5-year plan? You have to say it. You have to admit that. There has been a lot of US and other countries making waves and creating implications for countries like Jamaica. We urge you to address what those issues are. Identify and implement action to mitigate our exposure or capitalize on opportunities that may be open to us. And he ends here, why should we vote for you? Elections are not about party loyalty alone. They are about leadership, integrity, and the ability to effect meaningful change. As a candidate, we ask that you define your value proposition. What qualifies you to represent the people? How do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? What commitments are you willing to make, and how will you ensure accountability? Right? The people of Jamaica want leaders who are committed to service, not just power. We seek representatives who will uphold the principles of good governance, who will be accessible beyond election season, and who will work tirelessly to improve the lives of their constituents. We look forward to your responses and, more importantly, to seeing action that aligns with the promises made on the campaign trail. Right? Well said, and well written. Right? Now, I don't think the politicians will listen to what this writer has advanced and suggested. I don't think they will, because they know that politics is about politricks, tricking the people into believing and gaslighting them into believing what really is not, selling a lie, and proffering vain words and vain sentiments, and people believe them. The sad thing is that people believe them because they lack an understanding of the political process. And if you are beginning, if you are still embracing the ideology that we're living in a democracy, then that premise is going to mess you up because that's not so. Read the history. Read your political history. Understand it well, and you will realize that we have to give God credit for some of the things and thanks for some of the freedoms that we enjoy, but we are not free as we think. We're not free as we think. And if the more information that we can gather up to understand that, I think then we will seek solutions. But you cannot start off on a false a premise and expect that you are going to, wound up doing what is good. You're going to wind up having the truth. It's not going to happen. And the truth is that we are living in a full democracy. It's not the will of the people, right? It's not for the people. It's for the billionaires, for the oligarchy, of the oligarchy, and by the oligarchy, of, for, and by the oligarchy and the elites. This is not what we call a democracy, and you've got to wake up. You've got to smell the coffee and see that this is the Jamaica that you're living in. So what we're seeing with the conflict between Lawrence Rowe and Steve McGregor, or Delroy Williams and Joel Williams, I think that this is going to be the norm that we're going to see for years to come. All the best to you. Thank you so much for joining. Please like, share, and subscribe.